This is being recorded for YouTube, so welcome back, of course, to some geriatric gaming and Shy Sox Fan 11 here. And I just want to, after a long day of playing both against and as the new killer of the night, what are our thoughts about the perks? What are our thoughts about the killer? Well, first off, let's talk about the survivor, because all that is really is to talk about his perks. And I can say that having used Fogwise, which is the perk wherever you hit a great skill check on a generator, you can see the killer's aura. That perk is actually going to be, I think, really strong. It's going to be really strong in the hands of a Swift. It's going to be really good for solo queue players. We used it a lot. We used it a lot today with a hyper-focused stakeout build, and we constantly had eyes on wherever the killer was, and that definitely helped us throughout our play. That seems to be by far the best of the perks from the survivor end, and a perk I think that's definitely going to see usage, a good bit of usage. I mean, anytime you know where the killer is, that's a good thing. What do we think of the knight? Well, he looks neat, right? He stabbed that sword with some authority just now, didn't he? But is he any good? We played a lot of matches tonight, not a ridiculous number, but we played probably maybe 8 to 10 matches as the night tonight. I'd have to go back and look through to see exactly how many it was. We played a couple matches with an actual perk loadout, and then we played the rest of the matches with his adept perks only and no add-ons. And how did he play in those matches? Well, he got trounced, or we got trounced. And what was going on? Without gen regression, gens were flying really, really quick in these matches, and we're just a basic M1 killer. And our power is basically we stick the sword in the ground, a guard shows up eventually, and the survivor that we're trying to target with the guard has held W and run off well out of the range of the guard, who is slower and is not going to be able to catch up to the survivor and really do damage. Does that mean we never got hits with this power? Does that mean we never got any downs? No. We actually did have some instances where his power came in handy and seemed to be useful and seemed to be of worth and something that would be good on a killer. And those instances, though, were normally when survivors made mistakes or when survivors found themselves cornered up in the map somewheres where they had no place to hold W. There were instances where we literally in the exact corner of a map where there was a gen and maybe a loop, we ended up with a survivor that we injured, and we were able to send our guard one way and we would go the other way, and the survivor had only two choices. They either had to run towards the guard and then get chased by the guard and maybe hit by the guard, or they had to run towards us and take the chance that we were going to down them because there was no place else for them to run. And those instances, the guard's power, really effective and really actually pretty good and fun to use. Out in the open, however, in the time it takes to set your sword down, summon a guard, and give them a trail to go after or a path to go after, the survivor that knows what they're doing is literally holding W and running as far away from as possible from you to the next loop or to the next pallet or the next house or zone or wherever they're running, but they're not sticking around to see that guard show up. And survivors can just make so much distance against them in those instances. And there were plenty of times where we were in loops, even in the middle of the map, where we had injured a survivor, and it's like, all right, let's see if we can use the guard and ourselves to try to pincer them and trap them in between something, and that basically didn't work. By the time we got the guard set up, the survivors at least the ones we were going up against, just were running away as far away as possible in a straight line, and our guard was basically patrolling an area that was useless. And that happened even in instances where we put the guard down immediately. Survivors knew the minute they saw us activating that and summoning the guard to run and to get away from that loop as quickly as possible. And there were even a couple instances where we completely lost sight of the survivor, that by the time we came out of the summoning part, and even when we were doing just a tiny bit of a trail for the guard to follow, the survivor had already bolted and gotten out of eyesight, and we had lost them. That's not a particularly good power to use, or at least it didn't feel like a particularly good power to use. More often than not, we felt powerless, like we were just a basic M1 killer. And the instances where his power did work, where, like I said, where we were able to get him into corners and kind of trapped and cordoned off, in those instances, well, his power actually seemed to be working and useful and powerful. That was few and far between, though, at least in the matches we played tonight. Trying for the Adept was a nightmare for no other reason than without gen regression perks, every chase basically taking forever, or not forever, but unless survivors made mistakes, we weren't getting chases done too quickly, and gens were just flying, and survivors were just escaping. And most of these matches ended up with us killing nobody, or we did get a couple matches trying for the Adept. We got a 3K and one, and a couple 2Ks here and there, but overall, it just felt like we were always fighting an uphill battle, and it felt like his power just wasn't helping. And that's a shame, because it looks like he would be fun to play and a fun killer. And yeah, I just wasn't feeling it. That might change. I don't want to look at my dailies. I want to look at his perks. Out of his perks, the best of the perks is clearly Nowhere to Hide. You damage a gen, you kick it, you'll see auras within 24 meters for 5 seconds. There's a lot of killers this is going to be worth running on, and we did get value out of it in pretty much every match we played. And my guess is there are going to be killers with generator kicking builds that can take advantage of this, and I think this is going to be his best perk by far. Face the Darkness is interesting. We occasionally got value out of it. We saw survivors screaming. We didn't hear them. We saw them. We got the bubble, sort of like whenever the doctor tears somebody up and you can see their aura whenever they scream. We weren't actually hearing screaming, or at least I didn't seem to be hearing the screaming. Maybe I'm just deaf, but we were able to see the auras of the survivors for 2 seconds. And on matches where the totem actually stayed up, that gave us information where survivors are. This only works if survivors are outside your terror radius. I feel like this could be a very interesting perk to run on a killer like Ghostface, who a lot of times will have no terror radius. And I think that's where you'll see it. Other killers, I think, maybe Myers could use it with a small terror radius. I will say it doesn't seem to really fit the 32 meter terror radius that the Knight is running, and we didn't really see a lot of value out of this perk. A little disappointing, but like I said, I'd like to see it. We haven't played it on someone like Ghostface. Would like to try it on him. Hubris sounds really great. Stunned by a survivor, they're exposed for 20 seconds. Cooldown of 20 seconds. This perk sucks. Where's it going to work? If you want to run like Enduring Spirit Fury, yeah, you're gonna get a really shocked survivor the first time. If they're in the Swift, that's going to be the last time you get it, because then everybody will pre-drop a pallet in front of you from there on out. If you're playing even not against the Swift, you're only going to get one shot at a survivor the minute they know you have the perk. Even if you were running Enduring Spirit Fury, and if you did that, that's 75% of your build basically to get one down, because once you down that one survivor is going to pre-drop a pallet every time they see you again. They're just not going to stun you. And 20 seconds just isn't enough time. By the time you break the pallet, you're just not going to have the time to get to that survivor if they're any good. If the survivor makes a really bad mistake, you will. And we had a couple times in matches where we were able to get somebody down, but it was only when the survivor just made a terrible mistake. If they just hold W away from the pallet, or if they just loop, if it's a really strong loop, they're just going to get away with it. My best build that I think this perk would be interesting for would be for someone like the Wraith. The Wraith who can cloak or uncloak. There's an add-on for the Wraith where you uncloak whenever you break a pallet, whenever you're cloaked. But when you get stunned, you're going to be stunned for a period of time. Maybe that would work. And that would just be an add-on or two, and you wouldn't have to worry about perks. Other than that, I just think unless the survivor makes a really, really big mistake, this perk is going to do absolutely no good. You're just don't have enough time to get somebody down. We played Survivor today. Face of Darkness rarely, if ever, affected us. No one on our team, and we played a ton of Survivor today with a Swift. Nobody in our team got down by Hubris, and Nowhere to Hide. Was that helping killers? Maybe. Maybe not. Don't know 100% for sure. But these two perks, we know. We saw a lot of people trying for Adept Knight, and we saw a lot of Knights running both of these perks. And at no point did we feel threatened by either one of those perks. So Nowhere to Hide, I think, is going to be the good perk from the Knight. But overall, what's our thoughts? Again, it's early. We're going to need to see if there's a meta to play with them. We obviously need more practice with them. We obviously need to learn to play better with them, because part of our problems today, well, are just us being a potato. And the better we play with him, the more practice we get with him, perhaps we will just find that his power is better than we're giving it credit for. But just in my very initial assessment, feels like a very weak killer with a very underwhelming power that requires survivors to do bad things and make mistakes in order for you to be able to take advantage of that power. And that's kind of disappointing, because I think there's a lot of potential with this killer. I just didn't see much of it today, unfortunately. We'll be trying again with them in the future, so we'll see. But in the meantime, I would rank them. I mean, Pig is not really a great killer by most people's tier lists, and I would much prefer to play Piggy, and not just because I'm a Pig main, and because I have more time with her, and I think I'm the best with her. I just think she's a better killer, and I think there are plenty that would take, at this moment, would be in that position to be a better killer than what we're seeing. But maybe my mind will be changed. We'll have to see in the future what that looks like. And yeah, we'll see how it goes with the Knight in the future, and if he's a better killer than we're giving him credit for. But anyway, that's going to wrap it up here. And for everyone who watched the stream tonight, I want to thank you so much for it. And for anybody watching this on YouTube, we'll see you in the next Dead by Daylight, everyone. Thanks again.